So in a second, I'm just going to ask Warrior Spirit to introduce the theme for this next 3/4 of an hour, Destinies. I just wonder for a moment, yeah, we just want to kind of just sit and be and just kind of catch our breath, maybe just be aware of how we're feeling at this moment, and yeah, just reflect on this time now actually, and feeling you're, yeah, just in the right place at the right time. So I just want you to just relax and just sense your breathing, maybe take a couple of deep breaths and be aware of how amazing that you are. Everyone on this call is so amazing, and if that's what you take away tonight, just receive that as a free gift. So amazing people, I want to hand over to Warrior Spirit to take us on a journey of our destiny, and you're so welcome to be with us. Thank you, Warrior Spirit.
Yeah, hi guys. It's this is a privilege really to explore a subject that I've been thinking about for a while, and I think all of us from time to time we will think about destiny, and sometimes we bump into it. Other times we think, you know, I don't understand quite where I am in relation to it. And I think I want to just say two things before I begin. One is it might be useful if you do have pen and paper. Anything that comes to you, just note it down. An idea, maybe a question, maybe something that's bothered you for a while, because the idea behind this first session really is not a question and answer thing. I'm gonna bring something which is reflective. I mean, perhaps even a slightly meditational. It's not a teaching session. It's not a discussion session. And it has got a few questions in it, which are questions for you. Now, these questions, I'm suggesting I'll give you as much time as I can between each question, just to write some thoughts or notes or ponder, because you can take these questions away, and you can deal with those in a sense in your own time. So this is really a guide to look at the landscape of what destinies are, to try and round them up like a herd of cattle, which has been quite interesting in its own right. So my journey is really beginning about 15 years ago in terms of my thinking about this. What I want to do for now is just to read the theme, the promotional theme that we advertised, just to get you the flavor of what it is. So for the vast majority of us, tomorrow will come. However we look at it, we will contemplate the future, and it will prompt some very big questions for us. Where are we going? What is our role? Is this all there is? For many people, their existence on Earth, they believe, is just one life, and they just want to live it as much as they can. We're all looking for purpose and fulfillment on our journey. And whatever uncertainties prevail over life after death, we remain naturally curious about our future, our hopes and dreams, even the meaning of life itself. The inner contentment that comes with our sense of identity, which is all about being at peace with who we are and knowing that we belong. We want to be and to feel part of something bigger, something outside of ourselves, yet emotionally and spiritually connected to each other and a higher power. Deep inside is the desire to search, to seek better understanding, to discover that beautiful sense of belonging, which shapes our true destiny. I'd like to call on Radical Grace to give us her own short, I guess, a testimony, some kind of introduction by way of what destiny means to her before I go into some of the main text, because I think it will help us to focus on what the primary issue is that we want to bring out of this first hour. Radical Grace.
Thanks very much, Warrior Spirit. For anyone, I'm sort of dealing with some of the back of house stuff, so I will be on hold for 5 minutes. So just to sort of say that I'll be on hold. And if people could also be helping with people entering the rooms, that would be great. Thank you so much for that introduction. I've had a really, really powerful experience, really, for discovering the importance of destiny in my life. And one of the very first things is that I used to be many years, like 30 years of worrying about the fact that I was not, didn't know where I was going. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I was worthy to do the things that were my dreams. It was a real hard, at least 30 years of my life, probably even more, which was where I was feeling, you know, well, what is my destiny? And I'd be worried about it. And then I'd be indecisive, really, really indecisive about what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I, shall I do this or shall I do that? And I had a very, very strong experience with them due to becoming completely broken in many ways. Where I realized that it was not all about me making that decision, the next decision, that there was spiritual power, which can be called the spirit of truth, the spirit of the universe, the creator, creative spirit, that guides me. And it came through, actually, I wanted to just control everything. I didn't realize I wanted to control everything, but I just wanted to control everything that was happening. And I thought it was all down to me, completely down to me. And through being broken, I had to sort of capitulate myself to just to say surrender. I just can't do this anymore, and I don't know where I'm going. And that was really quite scary. It was as if when I let go of my destiny and controlling it, that I would as I let go of it, that as if everything would all go wrong. Yeah, it was already going wrong. It was all falling apart around me. I just have one particular example of where the most amazing things can happen with destiny. I was fighting in my mind about, I was working at a very, very high-powered paid job. When I say high-powered paid job, to me it was, you know, it was like business and very important, had a nice car and had all these sort of trappings around me, and very unhappy. And I'd had this experience of meeting my creator and knowing that there was something bigger there, but I was still holding on to it. And what I did was, I just remember that after arguing with myself for a really long time, for days, more months, weeks, one night I opened up my mind in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock, and said, you know, I just I can't do this anymore, and I'm willing to give up my work. I'm willing to give up everything. I'm willing to give up my the car, the pension, the salary, the everything, because I'm meant to do this thing, I think, that you've shown me, which was, it was actually working with people with hepatitis C, of which I had no money, no salary, nothing. There was nothing, but I felt as if I was being pushed towards that it was something I was meant to do. And as soon as I made the decision that it didn't matter, that I was just going to give up everything, because if it was the right thing to do, that's the right thing that I should do. So I I had this most incredible feeling of peace, absolute peace. And so the next morning I handed in my notice. This was in 2009. I handed in my notice, I handed in everything. Actually, it was a bit later than that. It was probably more like 2011, but quite a while ago. And within 2 days, I got a phone call where I was given like this opportunity to keep doing the work that I was currently doing, but be paid for it as a consultant and do this work that I wanted to do. And now in 2023, we've been working with hepatitis C through all these years. And all I can say is that it was my destiny to do that. It was a specific thing. There's other things in destiny that you can look at, but it was all by giving in and saying, I'm just going to give up everything. And I got, and I'm now, you know, we have managed to, I've always had the money I needed. I've never been rich, but I've always had the money I needed to do the work that I needed to do. Even though it would come very last minute, I do feel that my creator, you know, sometimes helps me to have a bit of faith and trust. And I'm like, it's about to run out. I've got no money. I've got nothing. And it always comes right. And we've been able to, the people I've worked with together, we've been able to help a lot of people. I believe it's part of my destiny. And it's just an example of what it is, just to give in and to say, show me what you need me to do. What is my destiny in life? Show me how to be the woman I'm meant to be. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Radical Grace. There's a lot in there. And I think what I have realized the more I've studied this is that destiny is huge. It's life consuming because it, in a sense, it spans the whole, not just the whole of your life, but if you have a spiritual concept of life, it goes way before and beyond that. But I'm going to start with one aspect really this time around, which is the idea of belonging, the need to belong. And I'm going to look at it in different ways. So I'm going to kick off with the introduction to what I want to call is our longing to belong. I'm going to read much of this because it'll keep me on track, given the time frame. Destiny can be described as identifying the future in the present, recognizing who we are and where we want to be. Our need to belong is fundamental. For the first 9 months of life, we belong in the womb. And on being born, that sense of dependency rapidly becomes conscious. And we begin to make choices that are driven by that need. So today we're going to explore the theme of the longing to belong. And we're going to ask ourselves some questions as we go through. The first aspect of this I picked up on was fate and destiny. It's the two greatest options people have for life. So destiny is generally perceived as the force that controls what happens to us in the future, largely outside of human control. The roots of this run deep. Even as far back as the 12th century, destiny is described as fate, an overruling necessity, the irresistible tendency of certain events to come about. Added to that, as the centuries went by, was this: an unstoppable force that shapes and controls all our lives and events, predetermined and sure to come true. So for many people, the prevailing sense of human destiny is that if it's going to happen to us, it's going to happen. So this is the essence of fate. And we've put a philosophy around that and we call it fatalism. And what that means essentially, I think, is that we feel or believe that we have little or no control over our own future. Now, you can trace fatalism throughout history. I mean, you can trace it in human philosophy. You can trace it in some world religions, Islam, Hinduism, particularly. And it's also a characteristic of the hierarchical social system in India, which used to be called the caste system. So I want to ask you the first question, which is not to be answered publicly, but something you might want to jot down, just to pause on. And that first question is, where does your sense of destiny come from? Where does your sense of destiny come from? And I'll just give you a few minutes to ponder that one. So moving on, there are times when we want to be filled with something we cannot explain. We want to be comforted. We want to be stilled. We want to be almost re-empowered by something that doesn't come from inside of us, but somehow we can connect. We want to look beyond what can be seen to explore what cannot be seen. Many of us would call that the spiritual realm, the spiritual quest, in search perhaps of our own spiritual destiny. Into whose hands do we place our own story? Which hands do we trust to hold us as a newborn baby, expressing a parent's heart of love and unequivocal self-sacrifice? Basically, who would we trust with who we are? See, whether we believe in a divine being or not, many of us long to make a mark, an indelible mark. You know, like in a prison, guys used to scratch with a pen or a stone or something the days as they go by, just to notate them, as like to try and connect with where they are. Literally making a mark. We want to leave something of a remembrance, even a legacy, if you like, because we don't want to be forgotten. We want to leave somebody a message that says, I belonged here. This deep-rooted desire draws on a profound sense that we were born as a human being for a purpose. It challenges fate, and it challenges fatalism. So if this is true, if this passion to make a mark, to make a difference, is continually strong in us, even though it'll go up and down at times, of course, and there's all kinds of reasons why we may lose sight of something and have to regain it. I want to ask you the next question, and that question is, how do you think you can affect your own destiny? How do you think you can affect your own destiny? How do you think you can affect your own destiny? It's a big question, and not suggesting in 2 minutes you can write an answer. I think it's something that will add in to your thinking about the whole picture. But as time is not with us in terms of the limitation we've got tonight, I'm going to press on. Mother Teresa, I think, who must be globally known, wrote this: "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other." I remember standing recently on the south coast of England and watching a vast group of starlings, and they were doing their thing. They were just doing what we call murmuration. They just operate, in a sense, with one mind, and yet they are entirely individual. They make a choice, but there's something about the connection they have with each other that makes them want to seemingly randomly do the same thing at the same time. I think that the sound of diverse voices, which in a sense is what the starlings represent, it's filled with questions, and it rumbles on because we're like that. We have a herd mentality, but more than that, there's something beautiful about the corporate nature of us. The fact that we're here together on SpiritSpace, there's something common that binds us. Maybe differently described, but we're going along a journey for 2 hours in actually the same direction for different reasons. The threads of a divine creator are woven into ordinary lives. And you see it in many ways. It's not about religion, it's about relationship, kindness, respect for others, deep responses to nature, looking after our planet, being good stewards, community activism, compassionate heart. There is an interconnectedness of life on this planet. And actually, at its heart, to survive, it must have two things: compassion and solidarity. In other words, a determination, an intentional attitude to make something work, to be that person, whatever is against you. We are all of equal value. We have many differences, but perhaps we should accept each other, not just because we respect the differences, but because behind it all is a corporate well-being, that acceptance is necessary for building community, building society, building dreams. Likewise, the spiritual aspect of us is wrapped around us and is inside of us as a thread. So destiny can be described as an irresistible desire to come home, to belong. And this is the essence of belonging. Next question. How would you describe your sense of belonging? How would you describe your sense of belonging? I'm going to move along. Interestingly, Jean-Paul Sartre, who I guess is globally recognized as being an influential existentialist philosopher, said this: God is dead. That I cannot deny. But that my whole being cries out for God, that I can never forget. So where is this entanglement with the divine within the human? It's like a thread. It's an embodiment of the unseen that propels us into hope. It's in a gesture, a smile, a moment of kindness, an acknowledgement of vulnerability, of brotherhood, of sisterhood, that tethers us together in moments of tenderness. It's an opportunity for rekindling of hope, a divine commodity that releases a desire to overcome and to rebuild. I want to move into destiny and death, because most people would figure that death comes somewhere in their destiny scheme. For many people, it's the end. For some of us, it's simply a transition that we make from one world to another, or from one body to another. And for some, it's from one spirit to another. In Star Trek Beyond, Spock says, fear of death is illogical. Bones says, fear of death is what keeps us alive. Many people are asking the same question. It's on their minds and on their lips. What happens when I die? The fear of death is palpable, particularly in Western civilization. And we tend to avoid the subject. We sanitize it as much as we possibly can. And it's not just about the physical death. The human journey is more than life before death. It's all about our destination as much as it is about our journey through this life to death. So destiny and destination are bound into each other. I mean, the word destiny sits into destination and its roots are the same. But the difference with destination is it indicates or suggests a place, somewhere you end up, or something you move into from your present circumstance, your present human life, or somewhere you arrive at. And this is the crux, in a sense. It's the center point for many people of their destiny. Like, if you believe that your destiny is ultimately governed by yourself, and that what you don't do in this life never gets done, it won't be done by anybody else, and as soon as your heart stops and your brain stops, that's it, then your destination is however you're buried. It's a box. And then it's whatever you hope or believe will happen to you when you mortally shuffle off the coil. So I find this fascinating, that there's a passionate value about living while you can in every possible way. But equally, there's a real uncertainty hanging over people about what happens when this life ends. But where is the wisdom then? Search, and again, search, to dismiss distraction and focus, cast off shackles of determinism. Look beyond the sight of the eye. Scoop the profound beauty of the divine into ordinary life. I've been reading a bit about death and near death experiences, and there's a lot to read. Researchers who specialize in quantum physics will tell us that they can prove that there is life after death and that there is a soul. They came up with something called quantum theory of consciousness, a theory which says that human soul has a special place in the brain cells, in certain structures in the brain, which they call microtubules. I'm not making this up. I really am not. According to them, our brain is a kind of computer hardware, and consciousness is a software program that runs on that computer. They found that the program of consciousness continues to run after we die. So the theory holds that after people die, the microtubules don't lose the information they contain. So it appears then that we have a consciousness that makes up who we are, ourselves, thoughts, feelings, emotions. And that entity, if you like, does not disappear just because we've crossed the threshold of death. It appears to keep functioning and does not dissipate. However long it lingers, we cannot say. The furthest they've got in this research apparently is 3 days. After 3 days, the body's own mortality will cut in and the organs start to fall apart. And I think then there seems to be unclear as to what's going on within the brain. But you've got at least 48 hours, and you may have longer. And this is when you tend to get these near-death or death experiences. Now, I'm privileged enough to have known for quite a long time a friend of mine, Roger, and I want to read to you his death story. I called it Life to Death to Life. So this is Roger gave me a story. I wrote it down, and I've abbreviated it so we can get it all in tonight. But if you go with this, it blew my mind, really. It still does. I found myself standing in a spiritual kind of space. I was being observed. There was no fear in the observation. But it wasn't just me. Millions of people were there. Yet I had felt individual and slightly alone. My palms were shaking from tightly holding my life story, because that was all I could take with me. The dazzling light meant that I struggled to look up and stand up at the same time. I never imagined that divine silence could carry such a deafening roar. I looked around the sea of faces. I lost count of the expressions. I didn't know where I was. There were no landmarks, no land. Like my sense of time, I felt my body was suspended. Yet I stood on solid ground. How could this be? I had more questions than answers. Then I knew, everybody knew, we're standing in front of our all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful Creator, as if in his presence, the beginning and the end of history seemed compacted into a single moment, like a life-size world atlas folded down to 1 square millimeter. The voice spoke to me, your life is with me now, for I've taken it. Everyone heard the same voice, but as if this voice spoke just to me. Then my arm shook gently, causing me to look down, expecting my neighbor's nudge. It happened again. And then a sweet voice, calm, reassuring voice, spoke to me. My eyelids flickered. I picked up speed enough to appreciate my partner's relieved and smiling face, welcoming me back, mingling a familiar warmth with a gentle yet uncontrollable excitement to see her partner recover. The surgeon told me I had been clinically dead for 6 minutes. Question for you. Where is death in your sense of destiny? where is death in your sense of destiny? Perhaps the creator of the universe is nearer than we think. Perhaps he and she intersects our lives in the everyday details of everyday life. The one whose presence is like a fine thread of gold that weaves itself through everything. A thread that can be touched wherever we find ourselves. C.S. Lewis said, "Our lifelong nostalgia, our longing to be reunited with something in the universe from which we now feel cut off, to be on the inside of some door which we have always seen from the outside, is no mere neurotic fantasy. It is the truest index of our real situation." So today, here we are on a Sunday night. How to find a fresh perspective on our present and on our future. To see what we have unintentionally allowed to entangle us. It's never easy. In fact, it's often painful to do this kind of thinking. And it's not recommended to do it alone, really. We were born to need each other, and this sense of belonging means that we are able to connect on core themes in human existence with other members of the human race. We're designed to connect. We're not designed to do this journey on our own. It can be painful to overhaul things, to reassess, to challenge ourselves, sometimes to start over. It can be scary. But we can't be brave if we're not first scared. The famous 12 steps is a prime example of a relational system which can free people from addictions, and it's incredible how it works. It's not just about a human will or intention. It outlines a spiritual dynamic in the pursuit of healing and wholeness and restoration. No one is expected to walk alone. There is one question that will help us to think through what kind of life we want. What would be like to be remembered for when we die? What would we be like to remembered for when we die? An honest answer to that question can be transformational. Because the second question on that is, what can we do to achieve it? So the first question is, what would we like to be remembered for? If you like, our legacy, what we leave behind, our tombstone. And what are we doing right now to achieve that? Because it's forming part of our core destiny. Now, it's entirely possible that this has thrown up some stuff for you. I'd be surprised if it hasn't. So lastly, really, just maybe a couple of minutes left if you've got anything to feedback. I know we've got to finish on the top of the hour. Been pondering your own destiny, particularly your spiritual destiny. There's an opportunity here and now with the breakout rooms to gain some insight into the true you. That's what we do here. We get revelation to pass on to you, which helps you to discover the true you, to get a light on your path, and to connect your present with your future. Revelation is the key. The spirit of creation will bring you a new joy of being, a life-changing assurance, and it will bring certainty into the meaning of hope. I'm just thinking maybe you just have 2 or 3 minutes of space there rather than questions. I just feel, let it settle. And if a question comes up for you, make a note of that as something to pursue, whether it be next week or this evening, or something you think, actually, there is something here for me now, and indicate a breakout room. I'm just going to leave that space.
Sorry, could you just repeat that last sentence about something if you want to share?
The last sentence, revelation by the spirit of creation will bring you a new joy of being, a life-changing assurance that brings certainty into the meaning of hope.
Yeah. I think for me, it's where I'm at the moment, like it's all about letting go. You know, like of the father of my baby. And I have struggled a lot living on my own with the baby. And I'm not looking for any pity or anything, but I have. First time mother, like, you know, I'm in the house on my own, I do get lonely and vulnerable. But it's just something that I'm gonna have to get over, because I know me and him are not gonna work. So that's what I feel for me, like in the process of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
New hope and, you know, spirit and all.
Yeah, thank you. I just say, I think that what Radical Grace said when we began this, that story, that personal testimony, it has quite a lot in it in terms of handing things over, and that involves letting go, which can be scary. But I think it's all part of that, a process where we move away from luck, chance, and fate, and we shift towards a position of saying, well, if there is a higher power, if there is a spiritual dimension, if there is something here which is bigger than all of us, then that's a direction of travel I want to make.
Yeah, warrior spirit, I just want to thank you at this moment for, I feel, for the food that you've been feeding us on different levels, and maybe for some it is a time just to digest and kind of let the food kind of enter you, and to let the stomach take the nutrients out and just receive your feeding through what's been spoken. And sometimes words are hard to bring forward at this moment, and I just want to say that is absolutely fine. And that in these moments, in this space, it's safe for you just to be, and just to kind of, for your own wellness, your own spiritual path, just to take on maybe key aspects of what's been spoken and let it go into you and nourish you. And you're really welcome to do that. And maybe even when we finish this call tonight in an hour's time, that you actually just begin to reflect and continue to reflect, and you know that we'll be here through different kind of connection points, but just, yeah, it may not be a now thing, it might just settle with you at a different time. So you are still welcome to stay with us. We're going to move into our second hour, where Hope Alicious will just take us through some reflective, creative material that can, again, will just help us to ponder, think, digest. We have our break rooms available via chat moderator. I know that in our Doors of Destiny room and in Heart Insight room, there might be some little kind of nuggets of gold that can be shared and encouraged with you, as with Ruach and dream interpretation. So I'd encourage you to come with us, stay with us for the next hour, ponder a breakout room, sign up if you want, and that you might feel absolutely in the right place at the right time tonight for whatever you need, want, or just why you feel you've been drawn here, that this will answer your question. So